Grand Rising, episode 14, I think, of whatever format that is. And as per usual, I just press record. Got a new offer. Had some people, let me know that they don't feel comfortable signing up for something that lasts as long as 3 months or longer, since they've tried a lot of rehab before and have tried a lot of different therapists before, and they quit, and so they feel like they don't want to sign up for something that long because they don't have the trust in themselves oftentimes to stick with it. And so I reduced that risk for you. I put out a subscription model now. You can cancel anytime you don't feel like it with a 2 weeks notice. You can basically get out of it, every month. If it's not the right thing for you anymore, if it is, building up too much pressure for you, whatnot, I can just tell you from my experience, that you won't have these feelings because I know how to handle this, and therefore whatever will come up, we'll find a way to work through it, and we'll find a way to integrate it. And there are plenty of ways to do this, and that's why my program is not 100% laid out, right? Like it's not the same structure for everyone, because every human is different. You are different than your other fellow sniffer that you meet up on the Friday, right? And you have a completely different body composition, you have a completely different childhood, you have a completely different story, you have a completely different mindset, you have a completely different way of life. Your lifestyles are very much different, even though you all meet up and do drugs together and drink and stuff, but like there's all these differences in that behavior that have a huge impact on how to approach recovery and how to approach high performance and how to approach coming back to center. Because it doesn't matter if you are running a business and your relationship with your wife or with your spouse is going down the drain. It doesn't matter if you're alone and just doing it by yourself. It doesn't matter if you running high performance teams and you just want to understand how they work, and that's why you're watching this. It doesn't matter if you're just here for the health content and you want to detox from heavy and soft metals and you want to get your body back on track. Like you have no idea what's really going on in the background. Something doesn't add up, something's not working properly, there's some invisible force holding you back, right? Like that's all, to me, it's all the same work, because I literally, it's like a mosaic, right? It's like a picture I paint for each client, and I look for these different bits and parts that I have to reintegrate, and then I have to take away stuff, I have to detox stuff, I have to add stuff with supplementation and with energy work, I have to take away stuff with the energy work, like it's like it's a little bit like an art, right? Like, if you will. And so all that stuff is the same work for me personally, because each time a client comes to me, I look at that specific case, and that's how I help, right? I start from the bottom up and fix the basics, and then whatever else needs to be worked on later on. So doesn't matter if you're addicted, it doesn't matter if you're a high performer and you just want to get back on track with your health and your fitness and your wellness and your mental clarity, you've got brain fog. It's all the same thing for me. Like I know how to do addictions, I know how to do that as well, because it's, as I said, it's very similar in the approaches. Because if you've got a spiritual void present, we've got to fix everything around you, right? Like all the pillars that are attached to your life, they need to be worked on, right? Like that's why all these programs that just work on the mental, they don't work, in my opinion, sustainably in the long run, because most people will relapse with the first crisis, right? And so you have to look at everything. You know, I don't call myself a life coach, but I am looking at your life in depth. I will ask you a lot of in-depth questions, especially in the first phase of our work together, because I need to understand it all, you know, and understand it all. Why are you the way you are? Why are you behaving the way you are? Why are you in this position that you are in? How was your childhood? How was your experience with your parents? How was your experience in school? And it doesn't matter if you're fucking 30 or 40 or 50. I still need to know. Because that's where your programs come from, that run your subconscious and your unconscious. You know? That's the mental work. That's the understanding that, you know, someone like me has to have for this work, because it's all connected, you know? It's literally everything is connected. Because people sometimes ask me, why do we work so much on the gut? And why do I have to fix my gut? I'm like, my man, my woman, this is where it's all attached to. All of these mental disorders, they start with the gut as well. You know? A lot of them. And I'm not, you know, that person that thinks, you know, ADHD or addiction is a mental disorder. I don't think that's true at all. I'm just saying that, you know, so you understand what I'm talking about, because, you know, I cannot use my jargon and cannot use my way of looking at things, because that's not where you are at, right? That's not what you've been listening to all your life. You see? So, yeah, the gut inflammation, leaky gut, it's all stuff we have to work on. Super crucial. It's where your immune system stems from. You know, mental clarity, brain fog, all starts there. If you have leaky gut, you know, glyphosate has been doing its job. You've been, you know, taking too much gluten in. You're eating wheats on a daily basis. Like all that stuff causes leaky gut, which in turn, you know, creates a myriad of different problems. And you think you have no idea what this is, like you don't know where that comes from, and oftentimes it's just, you know, that basic kind of setup that you have to fix. But it's not easy, right? Fixing the gut after so many years of, you know, just constant inflammation and chronic inflammation. You're probably also using, you know, medication to calm that down. And, you know, you think you're actually calming the system down, but what you're doing is you're reinforcing that inflammation. You're actually making it worse, and you're creating side effects that are sometimes even worse than that. But that's a problem with medical drugs. In most cases, they just create, you know, more problems down the line because they don't work on the root. And sometimes it just needs like a, you know, very cheap amino acid that's like, you know, 10 euros for 500 grams, and that will last you, you know, 2 weeks, maybe 3 weeks. And we reintroduce that to your diet. We remove some things from your diet, let's say. We also add some herbs and some other beautiful techniques and habits that you start stacking that will, you know, just propel your health to a different level, because you've just basically reset your system so it can start absorbing nutrients again. All these supplements you've been taking, all that, you know, health food you've been taking, and it just, you know, it just goes through super fast because it's not being absorbed. Like you're actually wasting all that, all those resources for nothing just because you've got an inflamed gut. You know, your stomach lining is screaming for help. And so, you know, that's just one, you know, part of these basics that I talk about. But like, this one is fairly easy to explain. That's why I like to use it. But that's how we go through the whole system, right? We look at, you know, these literal basic important pillars that are very crucial in your health journey, in your wellness journey. And, you know, especially if you've never worked on these things, it will be a little bit interesting for you in the beginning, right? Because you think, oh wow, what is this, you know, this doesn't make any sense. Why is it like, you know, why is it so simple sometimes even? But yeah, that's what it is, you know, that's what experience is. Like, it's just simple little tweaks that propel you forward. You know, it looks a little bit different with, you know, detoxing from heavy metals and stuff like that, because that's a more tedious process, and it will, you know, put you in a situation where you feel a bit more tired, you feel a bit more, you know, let's say run down for a while, because, you know, we will. So let me take a step back. So the body, what it does when you ingest some of these metals, it stores it somewhere where it's not dangerous for the system. So for example, in the fat. And, you know, there's people out there that tell you to go, you know, clean your blood and stuff like that, and, you know, do these get stuck to that machine, you know, that will, you know, completely clean your blood in a couple minutes, couple hours. I think it's like maybe an hour and a half or so. But what is funny is, like, it doesn't even get to the heavy metals and the soft metals, right? Because it's not stored in the blood. It's like it's stored in the fat. So, you know, it's just a funny money-making grab right there. But, you know, better doing that than nothing, like, for sure. Maybe it helps a little bit with something else, right? We've got going on. But yeah, let's get back to the point I was making. If a heavy metal is stored in the fat, and if you start actually helping the body remove that from the fat again, and it gets back into the system, right? Because it's not going to be expelled through the skin right away. Like, it gets back into the bloodstream and back through your system, through your liver, through your kidneys, and which means if you don't know how to get that out of the system there, it will get back into the fat. It will be stored away again, right? So just starting to get it moving is just, you know, a part of the process. Because if you don't know what herbs and what, you know, what help to give the body then to actually excrete it, you know, via pee or maybe via the skin even later on with different you know, with different substances and stuff and toxins, then it will just stay in the system and will be reabsorbed and, you know, redistributed throughout the system into all these parts where the body thinks is a smart way to store it right now, so it doesn't hurt the system, right? So we have these protocols, we have certain teas, we have certain baths that I put you in, and, you know, certain supplements and stuff like that you'll be following, which then over time cleans up the body, right? And then all of a sudden you will see, like, it impacts everything. You know, you've been ingesting glyphosate for many years and you've never even thought about detoxing from it. You've been eating fish, you know, maybe on a weekly basis. It's full with mercury these days. You've been getting vaccinated. So all kinds of shit in that, and the carrier fluids and whatnot, you know. So aluminium, mercury, glyphosate, huge, such a big effect once those are, you know, slowly pulled out of the system. But will have huge effects on your memory, on your overall well-being, on your focus. You know, all my ADHD people that are listening to this, like, if you've tried everything with your ADHD and then nobody has talked to you about having a soft metal detoxification, it was just a waste of money with whoever you were working with. Simple as, you know, you fucking keep eating all these pills all your life, or just start working on the basics, you know. But like none of these doctors or therapists, you know, think about that, because it's not part of the education. You know, because the government is educating them, and the government is also educating the doctors, and the government is also working closely with the pharmaceutical companies, and the government therefore won't, you know, stop like doing this loop, right, where they basically, you know, reinforce certain medication, they call it, right, and certain help that apparently babies need when they are just born and bombarded with these toxins like so early on, which is mind-boggling to me if a parent lets them do that. But you know, sometimes the education on that end is also lacking, and I know it's difficult because I've also been there, you know. And yeah, that's a whole different topic. But yeah, vaccination is an important topic to, you know, study. And if you want more info on that, just DM me, because I cannot talk too much about this because this is going on YouTube as well. And so yeah, just, you know, these very basics are so important, right, for everyone that's listening to it. Like if you've got ADHD, if you've got some short memory problems, you know, caffeine is one factor that nobody talks about. It's huge in regards to your short memory, right? Like if you've experienced problems with that, try cutting the caffeine out, try cutting the coffee out for a bit, see what happens, you know. Do it for 2-3 months. I can also help you with that. There's some little easy tweaks on how to trick your system in the beginning, so you can slowly wean off of it, right? Like maybe you can start having a mate instead, and you know, there's some great homeopathy out there that can help you with the process. And you know, there's plenty of options. If you want to explore those, just hit me up. But yeah, caffeine, big one. You know, I've been on and off with that like these last couple months, and it's a difficult one, you know, because I've basically been drinking caffeine since I'm probably 15 or so, you know, like coffee on a daily basis. When I was in uni, I was drinking like 7 double espressos just to kind of, you know, slow down my brain and be able to like think, apparently, right? But like it all didn't work. I also tried the Ritalins and the Adderalls back then, and just changed me so much. And then, you know, I was drinking a lot during those times as a form of self-medication, actually. And yeah, anyways, wide array of topics once again. I hope it made sense. You know, I'm super tired today, as I'm, you know, and in these last couple of weeks I'm just not sleeping well, you know. Like I don't know if you've watched my other videos, but I live in a place where there's a lot of tourism going on in the high season, which is now. And so there's always like some screaming going on, some music going on during the nights, and I don't have any deep sleep these days, you know, because I don't sleep with air conditioning. I sleep with an open window. And yeah, so I get woken up a lot, you know. Then I have two sons as well, you know. One is a baby basically still, and toddler, and so there's always something going on, right? But I'm not complaining. Just you know, my brain is a little bit slower sometimes, and surely, you know, ADHD symptoms, they pop up in situations like that, because, you know, I'm not in my usual mode, you know. Like, it's difficult for me to, you know, to have all these regulations like properly dialed in, right? Because, you know, clearly sleep is an absolutely important pillar, right? If you don't have your sleep dialed in, then you can do all you want, you know. Like it's just so crucial. Like it's even more important than exercise, even more important than nutrition, you know, if you have to separate them. But as I said, you know, all these three are absolutely crucial. Like, before you take any medication or before you go see any doctor, have you actually worked on those three? You know, because if you haven't, then this will be your biggest levers. This will be the biggest help with any condition you have: sleep, nutrition, movement. And then, you know, the fourth is, it's also, you know, meditation, calmness, stillness. But yeah, that's you know, for later in the process, because it's difficult, right, to actually sit still with yourself. Yeah. Hope you have a good day, and hit me up in the comments if you like that format, if it made sense, if you have any questions. Maybe I don't even know, maybe I started rambling and I didn't make any sense, because, you know, I'm also driving and there's a lot of idiots on the streets. But yeah, if you have any questions, DM me on Instagram. It's the best to get a hold of me, and talk to you soon.